guys, we'll get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. Didn't know how many people would come, and so Cassie and I both appreciate this. Thank you. And just some housekeeping things. If you are in a class that your instructor wanted you to sign in, there's sign-in sheets right over there by the door to come in, so make sure you sign those. For those students in my online classes that I said I'd have a sign-in sheet, sorry, I forgot to read what I wrote, but just do your online extra credit activity and turn that into me and you'll get points for that. So it's a great pleasure and I'm very excited to introduce to you our speaker for today. Cassie Eilers is a human service major here at Lakeland and kind of had this passion. And so she is here to talk to us about mental health and suicide awareness and to share her story. So, ladies and gentlemen, Cassie Eilers.
Thanks, everybody. I really do appreciate you guys all being here. This is something I actually got started last fall. It was September, and I realized there's nothing going on campus. Are you serious? I first went to Eva and I was like, man, I can't believe there's nothing here. And so that's where it all got started. And a year later, we're standing here in the theater, and I have a huge group in front of me. This is amazing. I really want to thank you guys for all being here. So basically, let's just go ahead and get started on what we're going to do. I'm going to teach you guys how to know the 5. This is actually a program that has been started by changedirection.org. They are an organization working with Give an Hour, and if anybody was at the Welcome Day event, I had my Give an Hour table where everybody entered a drawing to win some freebies. What they do is the Give an Hour challenges professionals to give their time to bring awareness to mental health and to help those that are in need. ChangeDirection.org is an organization that is, their number one focus is changing how everybody views mental health. So they have this program that we're going to go ahead and go through today. So basically we'll start out with what is mental health. A lot of people are just like, I have no idea what it means. It just encompasses a lot. Basically what it is your psychological as well as your emotional well-being. A lot of times when people are talking about it, they may mention, like all this pressure seems to be affecting her mental health. Let's face it, we're all college students, so there's a lot of pressure, especially about the last couple of weeks of the semester. That's when my mental health is even affected a lot. So basically, let's go ahead and why is it such an important aspect? Why am I wanting to talk about it? When you are actually free from a disorder, you have the ability to live a healthier, happier life. You get to live that life to your fullest. Everyone is actually entitled and able to have peace of mind in their lives, and that's something that we all deserve. If we don't have mental health as well as physical health, we're not going to have it. And mental health and physical health actually go hand in hand. If you have a good mental health, you're going to have a better physical health. You have improved productivity as well as financial stability. Let's face it, if you aren't worrying about so many other things, you're able to put your focus where you need it. You're able to focus on, I'm doing this assignment, I'm not thinking about the 27 other ones that I have to do by the end of the week. I'm able to put my focus where it needs to be. And the financial stability, if anybody is, I know a lot of the girls may understand this, retail therapy. Retail therapy is amazing when we're stressing out, right? Yeah, that financial hangover afterwards is not that great. So you do have a better financial stability if you have a better mental health. You have less strain on your family. You're able to focus on being involved with them, talking to them, and being a part of their lives. You're not distracted. You're able to give them your whole self during the time that you want to. You avoid crime as well as victimization. People that are in a very hard financial stability, situations, they may go out there and choose to rob a convenience store, rob a bank, whatever, because they're stressed out and they need more, they need to be in a better situation. As well as victimization. I mean, if you're in a bad situation where you're just depressed and you're down, are you going to really fight back? Are you really going to stand there and defend yourself? You're like, no, this is just another thing. Whatever, fine. That's what's happening to me again. So, and last but not least, you do, of course, have the longer, happier lives when you do have a better mental health. So, let's go ahead and go into the nitty-gritty, the thing that nobody usually wants to talk about, my situation. Back in about 2008, I did suffer from postpartum in 2003 when my daughter was born. 2008 was a very rough year for my family. There's my husband and my daughter and then my son. These are about the time frame that this went on. We were married, we were in a typical happy situation. There was nothing to be depressed about, right? Nothing to drag somebody down. You're in a great place. Well, no, because my husband was actually being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and if anyone knows what that's like, that's a horrible gastro problem that affects everything in your life. We had doctors that were giving him one specific medication and then putting him straight onto prednisone anytime he had a flare. Every other month was prednisone. Anybody that's ever taken prednisone, you don't sleep. You are easily agitated. Your lifestyle is just not where it normally is. So when I started to go through the stress and the strain of the financial problems of having so many tests done on him, and myself with having an anxiety disorder at the time, it was hard because we were not only struggling in our relationship, we were struggling financially. This was a lot to take on. I didn't have the support at home. The worst point for my anxiety was actually, I won tickets to see the Blue Man Group at the U of I Assembly Hall. I was so excited. Oh my gosh, I mean, that's a kind of a cool concert to be involved with. And I started to have an anxiety attack about what was going to happen. What was going to happen when I got there. There was going to be so many people. It was going to be overwhelming. I had no idea how I was going to handle it. And I got myself a little calmed down, and then I got there. Our seats were in the nosebleed section, so already you're in a section that is smoldering hot. You can barely breathe up there because of how much, how close you are together to your seats. This leg room is non-existent when you're at the U of I as far up as I was. That's when my panic attack started. I was so distraught, I swore up and down I was going to be sick. I left. I went down to the restroom. My husband comes to find me about 20 minutes later. What happened to you? Why aren't you back? The program had started. Everybody else, we brought another couple, they were sitting there enjoying the program. I was freaking out in the restroom. He finally talks me out of coming out of the bathroom by text message. I knew that there was an emergency exit right next to the bathroom. I come straight out of the bathroom, went out. I sat on the top of the steps for another 10-15 minutes. They talked me into first aid because finally a security guard noticed what was happening. Once you go into first aid at the U of I Assembly Hall, if you're having any attack and any mention of you going to the emergency room is said, you don't get to leave by yourself. I had an ambulance show up, they rushed in, they put me on the gurney, they wheeled me out by ambulance, sirens and everything, lights all over the place. You show up at an emergency room by ambulance, and then if they just push you in on a gurney and you sit in a wheelchair right there, and everybody else is still sitting around you, that doesn't do anything to help a panic attack, just in case anybody was wondering. So that was where my life was kind of hitting a hard spot. That was when it got to be the worst with my anxiety. My depression was actually finally noticed by my best friend. She knew what the 5 signs are. Angie is there in the purple. It's kind of a coincidence, I think, that I like to associate Angela being Angel. She is the reason I'm here. Anyway, she knows that, and she knows that I appreciate her. She noticed the warning sign of hopelessness. And we'll get to that one, but I repeatedly said how my life would be so much better off if I wasn't even here. My family is happy. They'll be fine. I was looking at the financial aspect of it. I never looked at what it would actually do to them. We were struggling because of doctor bills, like I said. Is anybody familiar with like the Cowden area? Cowden and Herrick and all that? Okay, so you guys know that bottom that's just south on 128? Okay, I was working in Effingham when I was going through this time frame. That was actually, sorry to associate the location with something so dark, that was where I was going to wreck my car. I was going to pull my car off the side, whip my car off the side of the road, wreck my car. My car's insurance actually had gap insurance, so for us that know what that means, that it was going to pay off my car. I had life insurance on myself. My husband would be financially set. He could pay off his car, he would be able to pay off our house, and hey, my kids are gonna have money in an account so they can go to college later, right? Their lives were going to be so much better because I was not gonna be the one that kept messing up. I wasn't gonna be the one that couldn't get our financial situation right. I wasn't going to be there feeling out of complete control. I was going to make their lives better. Like I said, Angie's the one that noticed. She told me one day that you need to call your doctor right now. No, call the doctor now. I was seeing a psychiatrist, and anyone that's in any of my psych classes knows that those are the ones that just give you pills. There's no conversation, there's no talk therapy, it's all biological. Here, take some pills, you'll be better. I was not better. I ended up being in that hospital for 13 days. Anybody been on the 7th floor of St. Mary's? It's not that interesting. You meet a lot of interesting people on there. I actually had 4 roommates because I was there for 13 days. Average days about 3 to 4, just so everybody knows. And when I was finally released, my husband made a comment while I was there because he was so frustrated because I was not being released that he goes, fine, just tell your effing doctor we don't need you at home then. He's not gonna let you come home, just fine, we don't need you. And if that gives you any kind of an example of the kind of mental state he was in, I don't know what does, because who in their right mind would tell a person that's suicidal, that wants to end their life, oh, we don't need you. You're right. Go ahead and go do that. That's perfectly fine. I got off of that phone and hung up immediately. I was having an anxiety attack. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what was happening. I felt like I was going to die with that statement. It was awful. Once I was released, I didn't know if I was actually going to be better. I was happy to be home. But my sleep was still messed up. I was getting about 2 hours of sleep a night. I'd stay up all night on the internet, and I don't even know what I was doing. It was just, you know, how you go trail from one site to the next. At one point in time, I had my husband hide my pills. I walked out with, of course, a handful of them, so I made him hide them in the squeaky drawer. So it wasn't an immediate, I'm better. Today, I have great kids. I have an amazingly supportive husband. He is my rock. I'm not kidding. If any moms went to school what gets done at home is not done all the time by you. And he has been amazing to help me with everything. It's actually, we ended up separating after that for about 6 months. And honestly, we have so much more of a stronger relationship right now than I could have ever imagined having. He knows when I'm stressing out here at school because I got homework that I have no idea how I'm going to accomplish. He knows to pull me aside and be like, calm down, stop paying attention, just look at me, we'll get this. And actually the little man turns 11 tomorrow, so it's kind of great. The reason that it is so important to speak up about this is because mental health actually has a huge, huge stigma that goes along with it. There's a skewed viewing because when someone's physically sick, I can't, whether they have, and they're equally just horrible. I mean, cancer is awful. Any kind of a physical disorder that's causing issues, whether it is like Crohn's, like my husband has, or not. But when you have an invisible, you have no idea what's going on. You look totally fine. What's the problem? My father-in-law, in his trying to understand my situation, was, can't you just wake up and be happy? Dad, if I could do that, I'm pretty sure I would wake up and do that. It's so hard for people to understand because they don't know what it's like. And if you don't get out there and talk about your situations, how is anybody else supposed to understand? How is anybody else supposed to realize what it's like? I mean, I'm not going to wish anybody to have depression. I'm not going to wish anybody to want to, having thoughts of killing themselves. But how are you going to totally understand it fully? You're not, unless you've been there, or unless somebody explains it. Then you can have empathy for it. The skewed view goes on to that if you, with a stigmatization, people that have a mental disorder, they are looked at as, they're crazy. They are out of their mind. What's wrong with them? I mean, and don't get me wrong, if somebody's depressed, really, I mean, if you've got somebody that's got a rain cloud over their head, do you really want to sit next to them and talk to them? Well, no. But you know what? You can help that rain cloud go away if you just take the time to understand that you can do it. There's actually a strong biological linking to the fact that people have depression. It's not saying that because your mom had it, you're guaranteed to have it. You just have a higher likelihood. It's not, like I said, it's not a guarantee. So of course I'm sitting here as a mom that has an anxiety disorder, and I'm looking at my kids like, okay, are you okay today? I mean, are you gonna be upset? So that puts me on a little bit more of a high alert, but I know that they're fine. I'm very open about my situation. Serenity and I go to Out of the Darkness walks. It was her that made the realization for me that at the Out of the Darkness walk, they gave you beads for a color. As far as if you've lost your parents, if you've lost an aunt or uncle, if you've lost a friend. And a white one, if you were a survivor, if you had your own experience, your own pain with it. And I was the only one at the event that was wearing a white one. And at this point in time, she's 10. And she looks at me and she goes, Mommy, why are you the only one wearing a white one? Well, sis, I'm the only one that's actually experienced it myself, but everybody here lost someone because of it. And you could tell she was thinking about it. I mean, she's young, but you could still see that they're working it through. And she looks at me and she says, Mommy, but didn't me and Bubby make you happy? This is the one statement, sorry, that made it really hard for me to realize that would have affected her that much, that I wouldn't have been here. So, anyway, so it makes me worried about her because of my own experience. I think the hardest thing to realize is that there's absolutely no shame whatsoever in having a mental disorder or a mental illness or however you want to say it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you don't say something about it, that's when it gets dangerous. So like not acknowledging is actually very, very bad idea. Your mental health, like I said before, is just as important as your physical health. There's actually a strong association between your physical health as well as your mental health. For example, there's actually been depression studies that have been done that actually link depression to a higher chance of development of cardiovascular disease, which makes sense if you think about it. I mean, you're stressing out all the time. You don't feel very good about yourself. You're inactive. I mean, you're going to sit on the couch all the time because you're upset. So it doesn't seem like it's that strange to have it occur. Change Direction does a lot of different events across the country, and they do one big one, and they've actually had several people come and speak. One of which is actually First Lady Michelle Obama. So we'll go ahead and read this all together. At the Change Direction mental health event, First Lady Michelle Obama set a clear direction for all of us. It's time to tell everyone who's dealing with a mental health issue that they're not alone, and that getting support and treatment isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. She continued with, and that's what we've got to do for every single person in our own lives. We've got to listen, we've got to connect with them, and that's going to take some courage from everybody. The courage to reach out and to have those tough conversations with a friend. The courage to listen and to seek help for ourselves when necessary. She's got a very good point. Nobody wants to have a conversation with someone. No one wants to tell them that, hey, I've noticed this, or hey, it's not an easy thing. Because a lot of people have a lot of pride. I'm gonna handle it on my own. I can get it, I can do it, I don't need anything. But it's not a sign of weakness. You need to stand up and have some help and get better. So I'm going to give you guys a bunch of statistics. I apologize ahead of time, but they need to be said. How many of you realize that suicide is actually the second leading cause of the age group from 10 to 14? We're talking my son to my daughter. That age group, it's the second leading cause. That's insane. She was 12 years old. Yeah, my daughter was 12, and she had a boyfriend. Let's face it, when you're in junior high, your boyfriend is, hey, we're going to the pool. You want to go with us? Yeah, we'll meet up there. That's it. You hang out with your friends. It's not a real boyfriend. But anyway, she had this boyfriend, and we had to talk about this, but she broke up with him over the phone. I mean, you don't do that. You do it, you have the common courtesy to do it face to face, But she was terrified, and it's her first boyfriend, so I let it slide and just talked to her about it. But the problem happened after that. This boy was just shy of 12, so 11-year-old boy was telling her and calling her repeatedly along with his cousin over and over and over, and was stating that he was going to kill himself. He's climbing up on the roof, his cousin would tell her on the phone. Okay, a child of a survivor that I am completely open with about what it's like to be suicidal, that is not a statement you make to them. She's shaking, she can't talk, she's a blubbering idiot with tears all over her face. I have no idea what's happened. I don't know. I'm like, sis, you've got to calm down. What happened? And she tells me. I called him back. I mean, I'm not going to let it go. And I talked to him. And it was just said out of being upset. But it's not an easy thing to push aside. So, but the kids are thinking about it that young. That's crazy to me. I don't think that everybody realizes how serious it is until they see the statistics. So So more people die each year from suicide than by homicide. Don't get me wrong, homicide, absolutely horrible. We've had several awful killings that have been going on in our area as well as across the country. But did you know that there's more people dying by their own hand? That's awful. And yet we choose to ignore it. Overall, for all age groups, suicide is actually the 10th leading cause. 10th. I mean, that's across the board. On average, there is one suicide every 17 minutes. I have the figure here. This is about a 75-minute presentation. No, don't get, there's not a 0.41 person, but 4.41 people will die in within this time frame of this presentation. But yet we choose to ignore it. In 2011, more people were killed by suicide or died by suicide than by a car accident, than by car crashes. The VA actually estimates that there are 22 veterans that die by suicide each day. Those are the men and women that fight and protect our freedoms to be here in this college, to say what we want to with that First Amendment, and to carry those, guns for the Second Amendment. These are the people that protect those rights. And there's 22 of them each day. That's ridiculous. There are 4 times as many men than women that will die by suicide. However, women are more likely to attempt anywhere from 2 to 3 times as often as men will. And then each year, 42,733 Americans die by suicide. For every suicide, there's actually 25 attempts. So in that time frame that I said 4.41 people, that's over 100 people that will attempt. I mean, that to me is unacceptable if people will just notice the signs. Mental health disorders are the leading cause of disability in the United States and in Canada. And many people suffer from more than one mental disorder, as attributed to comorbidity. If you're depressed, have a depression, or if I can talk, I'm so sorry. If you have depression, you possibly have anxiety. That's comorbidity. You have more than one thing going on. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, anywhere from 20 to 25% of the homeless population of the United States suffer from some sort of mental health disorder. So you think the guy that's on the corner that's holding a sign that's saying, "We'll work for food," or have two children I'm trying to support. You think that's just because they're bad with money, they're lazy, they don't want to work? Now, there's a high likelihood that that person has a mental disorder and can't keep their thoughts straight on what they need to be focusing on. And that's why it ends up being in the situation that they are. So what is actually the cost? More than 90% of the people that commit suicide have a diagnosable disorder that we could have stopped them from killing themselves. And the recent report estimates that globally we have spent $2.5 trillion in 2010, and we expect it to increase to $6 trillion by 2013. But yet no one takes into consideration that it's an important thing that we need to be looking into. So that's why I'm here. The good news is that there are ways to get this taken under consideration and get people some help. You can go to the changedirection.org website and learn just as much about this information as what I have. But let's go into sign 1. The first sign that someone is in distress is a personality change. It can be sudden or gradual. The behavior that they may have just isn't how they normally would be. It doesn't fit to their personal values. They just act a little different. It might be that they're just not themselves, they're not interested in doing what they normally like. I mean, guys like to get together, they play video games, and even if it is just a one-on-one kind of thing, we're hanging out at somebody's house and we're doing that,